Hello everyone, happy Lunar New Year, happy holidays to the rest. Okay, in today's lesson, we are going to focus on a new exam skill, okay, which will be coming up in your WA1 in 2 weeks time. So thank you for watching this video and taking ownership of your own learning. All right, before I start off today's lesson, I need you to make sure you have this soft copy, these notes with you, classwork 3. Okay, look something like this. Okay, with a human in front, and it's about 4 pages, 5 pages long. Right, so make sure you have that with you because I will be guiding you on how to complete some of the blanks here. All right, and to take down any additional notes that you might find useful. And if you have lost your hard copy notes, okay, I will also be sending a soft copy version of this, so feel free to download and print yourself if you have lost it. All right, so let me get started. Okay, feel free to, as usual, pause the video at any time, rewind and play again if you do not catch certain things, or if you need some extra time to jot down the blanks or to try and answer the question on your own before you wait for mine. All right, okay, so let's get started. Let me show you the slides. Okay, so previously in our class, okay, we have explored what is propaganda, okay, and what is the point of making propaganda. And we saw how the Japanese in particular came up with many propaganda posters to try and create a certain image of themselves, okay, and there's a very good reason why they want to create a certain kind of image in the eyes of the locals in Singapore. All right, so in this lesson, we're going to continue to explore from the perspective of the Japanese, and we are going to take a step further and try and answer exam style question. All right, and I will guide you in how to do so, and this is your first time doing so, so do pay attention carefully. Okay. All right, so this new exam skill that we're going to explore, okay, is called purpose. All right, inferring purpose. So we are going to figure out why people in the past created certain things, drew certain things, said certain things. Okay, so previously when we do inference, we try to learn something about the past. So this purpose is a bit more specific. Besides learning about the past, we want to learn about why people wanted to do or say certain things in the past. All right, I'll give you an example shortly. Okay, so by today's lesson, you should be able to understand what are the different requirements, at least from the exam point of view, and have a bit of experience crafting an answer to a purpose question. So in this lesson, I'll be guiding you, but the next lesson, you'll be trying an independent homework, which will also be graded. And then 2 weeks later, you'll be your WA1, where you'll be assessed on this skill for the first time. Okay, so let's try and make it work. All right, so some of the exam kind of questions you might see, okay, that is a purpose question, can be phrased like this. So usually the keyword we are looking for is why. They may ask you, why was this poster published? Why did they draw this poster? Why did the cameraman take this photo? Why did the person give the speech? Or sometimes they may change the phrasing. They must say, what is the purpose of the poster of the speech? Or what is the intention, which is basically another word for purpose. All right, so for your homework and your exam, you need to recognize the question type so that you know you need to give answer in a certain way. It's not your usual inference question. All right. Okay, so let's look at an example. Okay, you see this. Let me adjust my photo of myself. Okay, so in this, you see this looks like a poster. But if you read the provenance, which is very important when you do purpose, right? Because it tells you a lot of things, right? You can see that it's a propaganda poster for a movie, okay? And the movie is called The Fall of Singapore. All right, so you can see that, you know, there's like some soldier running. You can see that, oh, it's prepared by the Ministry of War. Looks like a Japanese Ministry of War because this is a Japanese poster. A Nippon. Nippon is basically another word for Japan. Okay, so it's produced by the Ministry of War of Japan. All right. So the poster says, okay, it's publicizing a movie called The Fall of Singapore, but there's also a small caption here. It says, you're wondering how much vaunted impregnable fortress fell. Now you see actual battle pictures how the invincible Imperial Army brought the fall. Exam question I may ask you, why was this movie made, or why was this movie poster created? All right, and I'm sure you all have some thoughts about the answer, but let me show you for our previous lesson on propaganda posters. We need to so we are looking at the part, the step 1, analyze the source. Okay, observe one message. What is the audience and why do you want, what do you want the audience to do? Okay, so this part on page 2, I'm going to show the slide back. Okay. Okay, so feel free to pause the video to transfer the words in red. This is for the first part. What can you observe? All right, before I continue. All right, if you have taken down this, okay, so we can see there are a few difficult words, but I'll try to explain to you what it means. So, impregnable fortress. Okay, oops, sorry. Let me change the color. Impregnable fortress basically means, okay, Singapore is quite invincible. Okay, we are invincible. Nobody can conquer Singapore. So they're saying you of course refers to the people who are going to watch the movie or who see the posters. So in this case, okay, most likely we are talking about the locals in Singapore. Later I'll show you why. And they say, oh, you used to wonder why Singapore fell, even though people say Singapore is invincible, very strong. Now you can see the actual battle, so the movie, how the invincible Imperial Army, the Imperial Army here refers to the Japanese Army. Okay. And like with all sources, we want to also note down what are some of the objects or pictures we see. So in this case, okay, let's note down, we see a soldier holding a gun. All right. So this part you are supposed to fill up here. Okay. I know there's not a lot of space, so feel free to write down. Let me tell you what you need to write. Okay. You should at least note down the part where soldiers holding a gun. Okay, this part in red, if you can't write down everything, I think it's okay. At least write down soldiers holding a gun and the, okay, write down the underlined parts. A much vaunted impregnable fortress and invincible Imperial Army. So you can write this down in the first box as well. All right, so feel free to pause if you have not done so. Okay, so after we see what's in the source, the next thing we want to ask ourselves, like we do with a normal inference, what is the poster trying to say? So we know the poster say all this thing, but with all this word, what is the main thing it's trying to say? Okay, so some of the possible messages. So this is a very big part of answering a poster. We need to figure out what is the main thing they're trying to say. Okay, so maybe the British were very weak, or the Japanese army was much more powerful than the British. Okay, so this part, the possible message, I need to write it down in this part. Okay, what message do you think the Japanese wish to promote? So feel free to pause the video and transfer and copy your answer. Okay, so we know that the message is that the British were weak or Japanese were stronger because we can see there's this caption here that says, you know, oh, the Japanese army is invincible. You know, even though the British have a invincible fortress, they still lost the Japanese. So we can kind of guess that is what they are trying to tell people. You know that, hey, you know, the British lousy. With they think they were invincible. Nobody can win them, but the Japanese still won them. Okay, so this was some of the possible message. So after that, we also want to ask ourselves, who is the author trying to? We know the author is the Japanese government, the Ministry of War. So who is the poster man for? So in this case, I want to take down locals in Singapore. And what's the point of telling the locals in Singapore this? Maybe the artist wants the locals to look up to the Japanese, okay? Respect the Japanese, that they are strong. Or you can say to support the Japanese, because the Japanese are very strong rulers. We should therefore they respect them and support them. Okay, so this part about questioning the message, the audience, and what do you think the artist want the audience to do, I will need you to take it down in this last box. Okay, so feel free to pause the video to copy down the answer. Well, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay. Just one more. Okay, so please take it down also. So the artist want locals to maybe criticize the British. That could also be something we want the audience to do. All right. Okay, so let's now try and practice writing our answer in a proper paragraph. Okay. In your exam, it's very likely you will get all these boxes to try and help you read the source. Although they are marked, but you will also be tested based on your ability to write your answer in a proper paragraph like you always do in the exam. All right. So we will help you by giving you extra marks from planning, reading the source, but this writing part is also very crucial because you'll take up most of the marks. All right. So how do we write the answer? So there is this very easy way to remember. It's called Pac-Man. So I'll briefly tell you what they are, and later you see what they are for. So Pac-Man is taking the first letter of these 6 things: the purpose, verb, convince, persuade, encourage, author, who made the poster, is the context, C for context, what's happening when the source was produced, what is the message, we talked about that just now, including having an evidence and explaining how you know the message, who is the audience of the source, who is it meant for, and what is the new outcome, what do we want the audience to do, all right, after they see the source, whether it's a poster or a speech. Okay, so let's try and do this quick paragraph now. So we are going to a new page of the worksheet. So we are at page 3. Okay, so look at this part. There are some brackets with blanks in them. Okay, we are gonna, this is a suggested a sample answer, but we're gonna show you what is each part of the answer for. Okay, so when I show the answer, please copy and fill in the blanks here. Okay, so we can see there are a few keywords. Okay, but basically this will be how the final answer may look like. Of course, this is a very perfect full mark answer, so do not be too stressed if you think that's a lot. Okay, take it one step at a time. Okay, practice makes perfect. Okay, so usually maybe we can start off by saying Okay, remember the question is why was the movie poster made, or why was the movie made, right? So we want to answer by saying, okay, the Japanese, okay, or the Japanese government made this movie to convince. So convince is a purpose verb. So if you don't want to use convince, maybe you can use other words like persuade, to encourage. Okay, up to you. All right, who are we trying to convince? We are trying to convince the people who stay in Singapore. Please do not write SG in your exam. Spell out Singapore in full. Okay, what are we trying to tell them? What is the message we're trying to tell them? Okay, so one of the messages we mentioned just now was Japanese was superior military compared to the British. Okay, and what's the point of telling them this? So that what do we want the audience, the locals to do? We want them to support and admire the Japanese and maybe look down on the British. Okay, so this is maybe the first part of the answer. And after that, what you need to do is like what you do with your usual inference. You need to back up your answer with evidence and explain your evidence. So if you see this next part, now you will see in actual battle how the invisible Japanese army brought down the force Singapore. So this part was copied directly from the source. Okay, if the source have no words, you can describe the source in your own words. Okay, but here we are taking the caption. Let me just quickly show you this part. Okay, this caption, we are quoting it word for word. So we tell them that, okay, we see this movie poster saying that, you know, we're gonna see how the Japanese army brought down the fall of Singapore. So what does this mean? So after you give evidence, you need to explain how we guess the message. So this means the Japanese army are very powerful. They can bring down the British and take over Singapore, even though Singapore was supposed to be invincible. Okay, so this part here, okay, is supporting how we figure out our message. Okay, how we knew the message of Japanese military superior. Okay, the last part is a bit of a bonus to get usually the last 1 or 2 marks of the answer. So when we want to understand what's the purpose of the source, we want to also know why it was produced, what was happening when it was produced. So here we can see the answer. During the Japanese occupation, the Department of control all forms of media, and they wanted to spread positive message of Japan. Okay, so there was this thing happening. So we used the fact that the Japanese government were trying to create a very good image of themselves. It helps us to kind of guess the message. So it's another way to help us figure out what is the message and new outcome of the source. But later I'll show you another way how I can use the context to come out with the message. Okay, so please pause the video and fill up the blanks in the bracket, the words in red, so you know at least the structure of the answer. The next part, we are going to try and write out the answer from scratch. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so now we are going to look at second source and try and come up with the answer. I will, since this is your first time, I will be doing it with you, so I need to take it down with me. So we are at page 4 now. Okay, we're looking at source B. So please turn to this page. Okay, while I switch back to the slides. Okay, so usually you'll see that, okay, maybe a purpose question, we take maximum maybe 20 minutes. At least you will take at least 10 minutes. Okay, but 20 minutes I think is really the maximum, or else you won't have time to finish the exam. Okay, and we're gonna use practice having a complete answer by making sure all the different things in the Pac-Man are included. If you forgot what Pac-Man is, refer back to your notes. Okay, so we can see here it's a propaganda poster published by the Japanese in China. Okay, so now it's different. So it's not in Singapore, it's in China. And there are some Chinese words that say, please look at how the Japanese army is. So the question, okay, remember the keyword, why was the poster published? So the why is a very big indication that it's a purpose question. So why was this poster published? Okay, so let's look at the source. Usually, let's see what we can see in the source. Then after that, we plan our answer using the Pacman framework before we write out our answer. Okay, so let's look at the source. What do we see in the source here? Okay, I'll give you a few seconds. What are some of the interesting details that pops? Okay, so maybe the most, if you are looking at me, I can see, okay, first of all, I can see these people. Who are these people? These are Japanese soldiers, right? Okay, and what's so interesting about these Japanese soldiers? They're all kind of nice, right? They're very nice, right? They're very nice soldiers doing nice deeds. This one is, I don't know, maybe doing business. This one is taking care of a kid. This one is playing with the children. The one at the back is helping to push some sort of cart. All right. So so now that we notice all this, and they tell us look at how the Japanese is. So why was this poster published? I'm going to switch to the notes form. I want you to take it down with me. Okay. Okay. So what can you observe? So for observe, maybe you can see, you can write Japanese soldiers doing nice things. Example, some are playing with the children, with young children. Okay, so I give some examples, some clear. So what is the message that the Japanese wants to show by coming out with such a poster? So the message, maybe I can write down. Okay, message, Japanese are very nice. Okay, they are very nice, they are very friendly, like that. So who are we trying to tell this message that the Japanese are very nice? How do we know who they're supposed to? Are we talking to Japanese or what? So usually let's look at the provenance. It says it's a poster published in China. So who will the poster be for? So we can write down, okay, the audience is for Chinese locals, okay, in China. So the people who live in China. So what do you think the artist want the audience, the Chinese, to do? So what's the point of telling them that the Japanese are very nice? So the new outcome, maybe on the write down, to love the Japanese and support them in ruling China. So at that point in time, okay, we know briefly that the Japanese were attacking China, and some people, you know, they were definitely very against Japanese invading China. So we want to show them, hey, you know, Japanese are very nice. There's nothing to worry about. Okay, so please support the Japanese. Okay, when they come to your town, your city. All right, do not fight against them. Okay, so with these notes, okay, how do we write out the answer? So I need to look at page 5 now. How do you write down the answer in the Pacman? So I'm going to type out the answer. So pause the video at any time if you can't, you need more time to write down. So usually, personally, I like to start off my answer by writing the context. So you can write down the word context with me. When the poster was published, Japan was invading China. So this was what was happening. Some locals may hate the Japanese for doing so because they are hometown. So it's very obvious some people do not like it. So what is the point of this poster? So you can write down, okay, the author, the Japanese government, okay, which is the author, made this poster to, okay, now let's include a purpose verb, to persuade. Who are we trying to persuade? To persuade the Chinese locals in China. So this is our audience. Okay, let me not put the word always bold. Okay, what are we trying to say? We want to tell them a message, okay, that the Japanese are actually very nice and harmless. So this is the message I want to send. This is so that they will support Japanese rule over China and not resist. So this is a possible new outcome. So I'm going to pause here for a while. I want to see, this is the first part, very crucial first part of the answer. Okay, how do I know why something is created? We want to know usually there's some sort of problem. So people may be hating the Japanese. So we need to do something. So the Japanese government wants to do something. So they made this poster. They want to persuade the people, the Chinese. They want to tell them something that solves the problem. You remember the problem we mentioned just now is some of the locals may hate the Japanese for invading China. So what can we tell them? What message can we tell them to change their mind? So we can tell them that Japanese are very nice, very harmless. Okay, and what's the point of that? So that they will support Japanese rule. They will stop hating the Japanese and they will support Japanese rule. Okay, are we done with the answer? Not yet, because this is basically like our first part of answer, which is like our inference. We say all this, we need to support our answer. So we need to next give our evidence. Okay, so you can say, I know this because the source shows many Japanese soldiers doing kind acts such as playing with young children. So I mention what I can see in the source. So just now the earlier example we can quote. So when you're not quoting, you're just describing a picture, you can use your own words to describe what you actually see. So after I give my evidence, I will need to explain, right? So how does this show that the Japanese are very nice and that we should support them? Okay, this shows that the Japanese are very nice rulers as they will take care of the Chinese when they take over. Okay, people's life will become better and there is nothing to fear. Okay, they should welcome Japanese rule. Okay, so I'm trying to explain how all the Japanese soldiers doing all the nice acts show that, you know, they're actually very nice and we should support. Okay, so they're nice, they'll take care of you, your life will get better, there's nothing to worry, you should welcome Japanese rule. So basically, again, like what we do, we use our own words to explain. All right. So feel free to pause the video to take down the answer. As you take down the answer, please also take down the brackets, okay, because you want to make a habit to know what does each part of the answer refer to. Okay, so this is about one paragraph. You take about 10 to 20 minutes to answer it, and in the next lesson you will practice with homework. Okay, and once again the homework will be graded. It's a small percentage of your WA1. Okay, so do take it seriously and give it a try. Submit it so that I can give you feedback, and then in the WA1 we'll have a proper assessment. Okay, so we'll end this video here. If you have any other questions, feel free to personal message me and I will share with the rest of the class. All right, thank you, and once again, Happy New Year.